We're on air.
What? Can you hear me? Oh, there's the agenda. Thank you. Okay, we will be calling today's special council meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, council members Zasatrian,
Here.
Devine,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Brotman.
Here. May we have your report?
Yes, the agenda for the Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 special public meeting of the City Council was posted on Thursday, June 15th, 2023 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
And where's our flag for a flag salute? Or are we not doing flag salute? No flag salute. Okay. And no invocation, I assume. Okay, so where do we go from here? What's next?
Our first
agenda
item for discussion is council districting process.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Galanian, will you
Yes.
kick it off, please? Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor Brotman, members of City Council. This is the second Council in Your Neighborhood meeting of the year. First one being held in last January, and staff is working and planning on a third Council in Your Neighborhood in the fall, with the intention of bringing City Council to neighborhoods and this evening to South Glendale. This being a special meeting of City Council, we will not take direction from Mayor and Council members. However, we'll provide an opportunity for you to ask questions. We have 4 informative items agendized for this evening. And we'll start off with council districting process, and our esteemed city attorney will give that presentation.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'll briefly describe the process, where we are, and then I'll turn it over to Stephanie to go over kind of the schedule for the remaining workshops and hearings. So the council started the process, commenced the process to transition to council districts from our at-large system in May. That process will require ultimately the voters to approve charter amendments to make that happen. The direction has been from council to process and start the public engagement looking at a 6 council member district plan along with a directly elected mayor. The council is required to have at least 4 public hearings for that process. The council held its first public hearing on June 13th or June 6th? June 13th, I think, and had a presentation from our demographer and received some public input and provided some further direction on the remaining of the process. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Stephanie, who will go over the remaining hearings as well as discuss the public workshops that the city will be holding in conjunction with its outreach consultant and demographer.
Thank you so much, Mike. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Machlian. I'm part of the city manager's team. And so I'm just going to go over some of the dates for the districting workshops. The next one we have is tomorrow. It's virtual via Zoom, June 21st at 6:30 p.m. The following is June 26th, June 28th, July 20th, July 15th, July 22nd, 27th, and August 17th. These are, as our city manager and city attorney mentioned, throughout the different parts of our neighborhoods, so south, north, east, west. Some of the council considerations from last week have been embedded into our website to make sure that we have the various translations. So now if you were to access it on your phone, you can find it in Armenian, Tagalog, Korean, and Spanish. That being said, we highly encourage folks to voice their feedback, whether it's how the maps should be drawn or what neighborhoods should be included. All feedback will be considered. We do have Tripepi outreach team outside, and they're able to answer any questions. We do have a feedback form on the website, as well as the email mapglendale@ca.org. Oh, excuse me. Actually, it's mapglendale@glendaleca.org. So mapglendale@glendaleca.gov, excuse me. But at this time, I can answer any questions, and if something is something that I need to follow up on, then we'll be at the next city council meeting.
Okay, let's clarify.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let's clarify the website. It's .gov, right?
Yeah, well, no, the
It's
website
.org?
is mapglendale.org. The email to provide feedback, to provide draft maps, any type of inquiry is mapglendale@glendaleca.gov. We do have these flyers with FAQs outside, and all of the materials are available in the various languages that I mentioned on the website. And you can access it via mobile as well as online.
Okay.
Mayor.
Yes. Let me do this just a second. We do have a speaker, public speaker.
Sure.
Let's just hear from the speaker, and then we can go around and ask questions and make comments. And I believe this is the only one. Is that correct? Okay. So we have Alan Durham.
Hi, Mayor Brotman, council members. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Alan Durham, 30-year resident of Glendale. I'm not here to express any opinion on districting. My concern is that I don't think the City Council has communicated well to the residents how this came about, why this came about, the timing. I have watched the presentations several times, and they're oblique references, but they're never very specific. Someone mentioned Santa Clarita and just mentioned it going to districts, but I went to their website. There's a whole page with links to a lawsuit that was filed. You can read the whole lawsuit. You can read their settlement agreement. Then I went to Santa Monica. They are being sued. They lost at trial. They won on appeal. It's going now to the California Supreme Court, maybe this summer. But I think a lot of this is the threat of a lawsuit that would force the city to district anyway. And we can either do it voluntarily through a ballot measure, or the city council can do it via ordinance through the state code, or we could get into a lawsuit that could be very costly and that, we might not prevail, probably wouldn't prevail. And then a court might draw the maps. But I don't think, I think people see it now as districting, not districting. We're going to vote, and if we vote it down, we'll still be at large. And I don't think that's probably the case. Thank you.
Thank you. This is definitely an issue that has been on my mind as well. Okay, I was going to ask our city attorney. I know that we need to be somewhat careful about how we characterize this. We have not been sued. We don't want to be sued. I don't want to say too much, so I would maybe ask if you can address this point about how we're communicating this and what we can and can't say.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So the speaker's correct in terms of the cities that have been sued. I will note, as we noted previously, that the litigation surrounding the California Voting Rights Act is a factor that all cities must take into account when deciding whether or not to pursue districts or not to pursue districts. We've not been sued, that's correct. We were threatened many years ago and has not been followed up on. But again, this information was brought to you. I do believe, and council members will have to kind of address this yourselves, but I think there was also, from the council's perspective, philosophical and policy reasons why a majority of you wanted to make this transition regardless of the legal issues, regardless of legal litigation challenges. That's at least the way I heard it when we've had these presentations at the council meeting. So I will kind of leave it at that. But again, I think overall, the litigation regarding the CVRA is an issue that all cities take into account, and I think it's something that we would take into account anyway, whether or not to transition to districts.
The challenge, and the challenge, for me is what the speaker said is, I think in the public's mind, there will be a perception among many that if they vote no, we keep things the way they are. And that's not necessarily the case. And I don't know how we explain that, taking into account the kind of the legal concerns that we might have.
Okay, that's fair. I think what I would say to that is any city that has, in California, that has an at-large system with a sizable minority population is subject to being challenged at some point. And I do think, with the Santa Monica case before the California Supreme Court, depending on how that turns out, there might be additional litigation that flows from that, depending on the outcome of that decision. And so all cities are wise to follow that, see how it turns out, and act accordingly. But I don't think that necessarily if we put this before the voters and the voters turn it down, that will be the end of it because of these issues.
Yeah, we don't think that will be the end of it, but the voters may not know. So now, I know, Councilmember Devine, you had something, and Councilmember Kasakian. Was it specific to this speaker? Then could we go to Councilmember Kasakian first? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that the speaker outlined it very succinctly. If we can have that, I haven't had a chance to see what materials we have on our website to explain this, but I think that is the crux of it, right? If we do not go to, potentially, if we do not go to districts, districts may be forced upon us. The advantage we have of controlling our future is that we have this proposal or we have this effort to go out into the public, explain that, look, if we don't do anything, there's a very good chance we'll go to just 5 districts. There'll be no at-large seats. That whole fear of balkanization, that everyone gets a council person and that council person is your council person, could be a reality. Or we can go to an expanded council with a at-large elected office, which we would call the mayor, and I guess it's up to the public and for us to discuss what the powers of a mayor would be, if there is any, and that way allow for the public to not only have the ability to vote for someone who represents all of Glendale, but also to vote for someone who can give them some local, more direct representation. The reason I believe the expansion is better as well is because with that, you have an even number, you have an odd number of potential votes. So you're not going to end up in any 3-3 deadlocks if we went to just 5 council districts with an elected mayor, and that would also require a process. So these are all things I think that warrant the public discussion. I think they need to be explained to the public. I know that everyone feels that this is sudden, but I can assure you that it's been a long time coming. We're fortunate to not have had this forced upon us up until now. And it's correct that we haven't been sued, but as the city attorney and others have mentioned before, we've received letters expressing concerns about our non-compliance with the Voting Rights Act. And I'll also say that I don't think the Voting Rights Act is ideal nor perfect. It doesn't solve problems, and Santa Monica is one of those cases where you had a lawsuit, even though there were individuals of Latino descent on the council at the time. So it's not perfect, but I think it's better to be the masters of our own destiny if we're going to go through this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Devine.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, to Mr. Durham's comments, my objection to all of this is the elected mayor. I don't know that that's part of the lawsuit. Can you tell me that, City Attorney Garcia?
No, the lawsuit involving Santa Monica is just whether or not their at-large system violates CVRA.
Okay, right. So that's why I'm really being kind of hard-nosed about our residents speaking out whether they want an elected mayor or not. As far as the districts are concerned, I've never been a fan of that, but you know, when you're faced with what other cities are being faced with, then you have to take action. My question was, that's just my comment. Stephanie, would you go through those dates, please, for the outreach, because you went through them very fast. I only copied 2 down, 21st and the 28th. Can you give us the time, the date, and where they are?
Yeah, thank you so much. So tomorrow, June 21st at 6:30. It's virtual via Zoom. There is no registration. To boost accessibility, we decided not to have a registration form, so folks can just click the Zoom on the website that's available today, and they will join the Zoom, tomorrow, the 21st at 6:30.
And which one of those two websites, what was the website?
The website, yeah, thank you so much, Councilmember Devine. The website is mapglendale.org/schedule. If you plan to see the calendar and the workshop dates, the public hearing dates are all listed there.
And that's where the Zoom button will be?
Yes.
Okay.
Next up is June 26th.
Oh, I thought it was the 28th.
Oh, yes, June 28th, excuse me. June 28th at 6:30 PM at Dunsmore Park.
Thank you.
July 20th at 6:30 PM at Brand Library. July 15th at 5:30 PM, we will be doing a pop-up at Cruise Night. Sorry.
Okay.
July 22nd at 10 a.m. at Griffith Manor Park. July 22nd at 2 p.m. at Maple Park. July 27th at 6:30 p.m. at Chevy Chase Library. August 17th at 6:30 p.m., and this is also virtual via Zoom, no registration required. And if I may, the public hearings that will be held at City Hall, which will have districting on the agenda, will be July 11th at 6 p.m. and August 15th at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, but I'm old school, so I have to write everything down. Thank
My
you. very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So I just
Councilmember
think it
Najarian.
would be, I just think it would be better for the public if they knew at an early stage what the powers of the mayor would be, what the term of the mayor would be, whether he would have veto power, whether he would be a figurehead running the meeting. Those are very important, and because that particular issue is tied in with the districting issue, I don't think that's fair. We went through this. I'm just expressing my thoughts again, that Ms. Devine said, let's separate those, let's bifurcate those issues, the separate mayor versus the districts. But how can you go to the public and talk to them when they have no idea, and we have no idea, what the role of the mayor would be? And I think that makes a difference. You know, what are we going to tell them? If someone asks you, well, what's the mayor going to do? We don't know. Well, then what point is the public outreach if we can't give them that information? So that's just my thought.
Let me go to our city attorney, but I know you had something to say, but I also just want to follow up on that. When is it that we will make that decision, a 2 or a 4-year term, what the powers are, et cetera?
Mr. Mayor, we're currently in the process of surveying cities that have a directly elected mayor in their charter and presenting that information to you on July 11th.
July 11th.
So that's the same day as the second public hearing. So I would say for these for these community workshops that are occurring before that, the primary goal of that is to get residents' feedback on what the district should look like. But there will be plenty of time for the public to comment on whether we should have this system, whether we should have it with a directly elected mayor, and what the roles and duties of the directly elected mayor should be.
And would this be the opportunity for us to make a decision? Are we going to be?
I think certainly to provide the feedback so that we can bring language back to you. So we're going to bring you a number of decision points. What should be the roles and duties of the mayor? What should it be, a 2-year term or a 4-year term? What should the term limits of the mayor be? Should the mayor be a voting member of the council or not? I assume it would be, since you need you would need a 7th vote, but doesn't necessarily. We can always write the charter in a way that's not. We could provide all those options to you on July 11th, get that initial direction from you, bring back language as soon as feasible so that you can see it.
Okay, because I think what you're hearing from Councilmember Najarian, and I concur, is that the sooner we get that nailed down, the better for this process.
And we understood that from the last meeting.
And you had another thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just, on the topic of the districts and potential litigation, again, I won't comment too much further, but I did want for people to understand in terms of whether to weigh, whether it's worth, proceeding as our current system and see if we get challenged or going our own, trying this path to try to transition to districts. And I just want people to be aware of the worst case scenario, which is what happened in Santa Monica at the trial court level. And again, I'm not opining on it. Or actually, I will have an opinion on it. But just the worst case scenario is at the trial court level, they not only did they lose, meaning they had to go to districts. In that case, the Superior Court ordered the city to adopt the district plan that the plaintiffs were proposing with no input from its residents and from no input from the city itself. So that is, the question was, what's the worst case scenario? That is the worst case scenario. I would imagine everybody here would think that that is a terrible outcome. So I just want to provide that information to you. A lot of commentators think that the trial court was wrong on that. But anyway, that's kind of, I wanted everybody to understand that's sort of the worst case scenario if we were ever to be challenged.
Councilmember Asatrian?
Meetings that are going to take place before July 11th, that we're going to discuss this, are you going to be obtaining feedback from residents and bring that feedback to us on July 11th? Or are they just talking about districting and we're separately in a dark room talking about what we want to?
Again, I think as Mr. Johnson explained when we had the discussion, the focus will be on the districts, but we will certainly, any input, we will obviously advise that part of this is the directly elected mayor component, the governance structure, and if folks have feedback on whether we should have a directly elected mayor in conjunction with this, that feedback will be gathered and brought to the council at every subsequent public hearing that we have before you.
Sorry. Okay. Oh, Mr. Galani, there's a phone call? No.
No comments, no phone calls.
Okay. Again, I want to thank Mr. Durham for that very thoughtful comment, and it's something that's on all of our minds as well. And I think, we need to figure out in these districting meetings that we're holding how to make this clear to people, because it is very confusing. So, okay. With that, I guess these are not action items, so we just move on to the next item. Okay, and what is that?
Mr. Mayor, if there are no other questions, then we can move on to the next
Okay.
item.
Sounds like there are no more speakers, no more questions, so we'll move on.
Okay, great. Next item is going to be presented by Mr. Bulanikian, Director of Community Service and Parks, related to the summer recreation programs in the city.
Good evening, Mayor Brotman, members of the council. So I'm going to be talking about some fun stuff that we're doing this summer. A couple other fun things in fall, but I want to highlight a few items for you all. So first, about our youth programs. We have a number of programs taking place this summer. Our most popular program is a day camp program. When I first started with the city 20 years ago, we had day camp programs at 3 parks. We went ahead and expanded we saw a need, and we expanded our program to 7 locations. We have 10 different camps for 9 weeks. The first camp I want to highlight is the Cool Days Camp, which includes Kinder Camp, Cool Days, and Traveling Teens. That camp is held at Pacific Community Center, Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. We have a camp at Maple Park, the Stars Camp, Spar Heights, Spartacular Camp, and we have 2 outdoor day camp programs, one at Verdugo and one at Brand. It's a hybrid model. We have most of the programs are outdoors at Verdugo and Brand, but we also have some indoor activities. And our newest camp that was approved by council last year, thanks to our Measure S funds, is the nature camp. Last year, we had 4 weeks of nature camp, and this year we expanded, we increased the camp an additional 2 weeks. So our nature camp up at Duke-Majan is for 6 weeks, and that camp is fully booked. We have no more slots available. So it is very exciting to see that camp being full. And then our last camp that I want to highlight is the skate park camp. The skate park camp, we have 2 different types of camps, one being the beginners and one being our intermediate and advanced beginners. We also have, yes?
Councilmember Devine.
Thank you. Mr. Bolanikian, when you say the nature camp is completely booked, how many would that be?
30 per week.
30 per week?
30 per week. We have outdoor activities, indoor activities. They're housed at the Nature Center. So we have hikes on a daily basis, the arts and crafts. We have our trail and space, open space naturalists come out and give talks on nature education. It's a very popular program. We also have youth programs, our specialty and contract camps that we contract out with private organizations. We have our yoga and art camp, our tennis camps, Evolution Basketball Camp, and our Maximum Potential Camp. The Maximum Potential Basketball Camp is held here, and that's a very popular camp that has been going on for the last 12 years. Aquatics, Pacific Community Pool. This program, the facility is open 6 a.m. till 8 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Friday. Saturdays and Sundays we're open 11 to 6. Our Learn to Swim program is very popular. We have 3,050 spots available. Right now we have 2,085 filled spots as of today, so that's 70% of the spots being filled. Our private lessons are fully booked at 100%, and our recreation swim, we have 4 hours available per day weekdays and 5 hours available during the weekends. And we have to scale back our lap swim program to accommodate recreation swim and our summer swim lesson program. And once again, thanks to council, we allocated Measure S funds, and we use the Measure S funds to operate the pool on a year-round basis. But today I'm just highlighting our summer program. I started with aquatics 32 years ago, and I can tell you this is the busiest pool that I've seen in LA County. The staff at Pacific does a great job. I know we try to balance the program, making the facility available for our private lessons, our youth lessons, adult lessons, as well as lap swim and permitted use for private rentals. We do have other water play options throughout the city. We have 2 splash pads, one being here at Pacific Park and another one being at Cerritos Park. Splash pads are operated Monday, 7 days a week, 11 o'clock till 6 p.m., starting May 26th through September 17th. And then September 23rd through October 15th, we operate the splash pads weekend only, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. We also have 5 wading pools throughout the city, Dunsmore, Brand, Fremont, Glen Oaks, and Palmer. We operate each wading pool 2 days a week, Monday through Thursday between 12 and 6, and Fridays and Saturday between 1:30 and 6:30. Our wading pools are also available for private parties, so anyone can call our aquatics office here at Pacific and reserve wading pools for their private parties, let it be birthday parties or after-school parties or graduation parties. Our next program that I want to highlight is a senior program. We have...
Just a second, Mr.
Yes.
Bolanikian. Councilmember Azar.
Yeah, Mr. Bolanikian, are the hours for the wading pools and the splash pads extended? I remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I remember like I had mentioned extending the hours because of the heat wave that was coming in. So are these extended hours, or do we end up, are you planning to adjust based on the weather?
Mayor Brotman, members of the council, Councilmember Asatorian, yes, these are our standard hours, but if we were to have a heat wave similar to what we had a couple years ago, we would extend it probably till 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Councilmember Casati.
Mr. Belanikian, does the use of or the successful use, the busyness of the pool here at Pacific, in your mind, necessitate for us to have another pool somewhere else in the city and think of options? Is that something we should be looking at as a council?
Great question. Mayor Brotman, members of the council, Councilmember Kasakian, having an additional aquatic facility will be a plus to the community. We will definitely fill all the slots, let it be lap swim, swim lessons, private lessons, recreational swimming. We'll have water polo clubs and different swimming users use both facilities. But having ideally an aquatic center in the city is recommended.
Because I know that when this pool was being rebuilt, there was a pool here a long time ago, and then it was filled, and then we rebuilt it. I remember at that time, Councilmember Najarian was very adamant about it being of a specific size, and I think we kind of shortchanged him a little bit on that. And I don't know if it's time for us to consider maybe additional facilities. Also, piggybacking on what my colleague, Councilmember Asatrian, said in terms of the heat wave, in the event of a severe heat wave, what is our accessibility to the public school aquatic facilities? In a very dire situation, can we or are we thinking of asking Hoover High School, Glendale High School, possibly Crescenta Valley or anyone else who has a pool to give us access to those swimming pools?
We can ask, but when we've asked for some time for our swim program or our junior lifeguard program, they have their own programs, let it be their lifeguard training, their water polo and swim lesson. If they have the availability, I'm sure they would give us some time to use the facility. Keep in mind that when we have a heat wave, our pools and wading pools will be open, so all of the staff resources that we have will be allocated to our facilities. So we would need to use their staffing if they have lifeguards available. We won't be able to allocate staffing to lifeguard and maintain their facilities.
Okay, well, it's something I think that would be worth looking at, maybe talking to our fire department, see if there's anyone that could possibly provide oversight and lifeguard similar like duties. I think that if we have those facilities, if it's a really dangerous situation, you know, we've seen heat waves across the country in places like Chicago and even here in LA where people actually perish, they die from the excessive heat. And if we have pools, it might be a nice reprieve for individuals who may not have and air conditioning. And we continue to also provide, or we have box fans and fans for individuals who are in need, correct?
Yes, we still have fans from the CARES Act funding that we received 2 years ago during COVID, and those are available for eligible seniors, I believe 60 and up. If they need fans, their AC system doesn't work, or they need fans to circulate air in their house, we would go.
Provided through your department, correct?
Provided through the community service parks.
And
Yes.
thank you, Mayor. And I know that these are perhaps somewhat silly questions when we've had an oddly very cool and gray June, unlike any in recent history, but I think that all of us are anticipating an excessively hot latter part of the year. Thanks.
No problem. Actually, the cooling fans that are specific for seniors, is that tied to us getting the equipment back then? Or is that something that can be expanded to families that are, I don't know, low income and not just for seniors?
The funds were CARES Act funds, and when we submitted the program to the federal government, we told them that it would be used for seniors 60 and above. Now, we can look at a substantial amendment to go back and use the funds to purchase or give the fans to low-income families. I would need to get back to council on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just have another.
Oh, Councilmember Najarian.
So, yeah, so great idea about another pool. I think there's some spots in Verdugo Park. If we reuse parking lots, the one between the skate park and the baseball field, it goes east-west at that point. Or the pool at, the parking lot behind the Armenian church at some location. You know, reminiscent of the previous location of our keyhole pool, which was beloved by so many Glendalians. And I think this is one of my come back to council issues, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Galan, that's one of my come back to council issues, if I'm not mistaken, so.
You are correct, Councilmember
Yeah, so
Najarian.
I won't push it anymore at this point, but it's, as we discuss it, it's good to sort of visualize things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So next item I want to highlight is the senior programs. We have our senior meals program. We continue to serve over 5,000 meals per month. This is for our congregate meal program as well as our home delivered meal program. During COVID, during the pandemic levels, we were serving between 12,000 to 14,000 meals per month. So our senior meals program at the Outdoor Recreation Center operates 7 days a week, Pacific Community Center 3 days a week, and Spar Heights Community Center 5 days a week. We also are working with USC Occupational Therapy, and we have interns conducting field work with senior services. We're having the interns go out and talk to the seniors that are homebound. We have our Care Caller program, and our interns follow up with our seniors, making sure they're okay, and they have all the necessities that they need, and providing the services that are needed for our seniors. We also have senior educational seminars. We work closely with our hospitals as well as our police department in providing a number of seminars such as our senior scam stoppers, fraud, senior abuse, and other seminars related to senior programs. Our senior exercise classes, as you were walking in this evening, I'm sure you heard the pickleball players play pickleball. That's a very popular sport. It's growing. We started our pickleball program back in 2013 at Pacific. Last week, we had a very successful event for our pickleball for veterans, where we had a number of veterans come out, and we had our volunteers teach them how to play pickleball. We have a number of senior exercise classes at all 4 of our community centers, Maple Park, Pacific, Spar Heights, and Adult Recreation Center. We work with Glendale College. They come in and provide, let it be yoga, Zumba, line dancing, and different types of classes for our seniors. Upcoming events are...
Mr. Blanikin?
Yes.
Sorry. On the elderly nutrition program,
Yes.
who are we contracting with for the food for the seniors?
The foods is Trio Contracting with the food for, it's a LA County vendor approved, Trio Catering.
Okay, so I raised this during COVID, and you and I worked on this together back then as well. One of my major concerns here is that we're not using our local restaurants in Glendale for these programs. It's a good opportunity for us to feed back into our local economy here. I don't know if this is something that maybe your department can work with economic development in seeing how we get some of our local restaurants to be part of that LA County list. I remember that when that funding became available and the programs rolled out during COVID, they ended up going with large chain hotels and large chain restaurants, not benefiting any of our local mom and pop shops and small businesses. And so I want to see us make an effort to make sure that our local restaurants are part of that list and what kind of outreach we're doing with them, and then see if we can feed it back into our nutrition programs.
Okay, Yes, we'll have staff coordinate with economic development and give the information to the businesses on how to apply to be LA County vendors. So special events, our next special event coming up is Cruise Night, which will be held July 16th. Cruise Night has been around since 1994. We're expecting close to 40,000 people. That night, we go ahead and close down Brand Boulevard and have a classic car show. It's the biggest party in the city. It'll be held 5:30 to 10:30 on July 16th, so we hope to see you and everyone out in the public there on the 16th. We also have a MIP, Maple Park All-Inclusive Day. This is a joint program with Shane's Inspiration. This will be held at Maple Park on July 15th as well, between 11 and 1 p.m. And in fall, we will be having our Pacific Community Center Fall Festival and 20th anniversary. Believe it or not, this facility was opened September 3rd of 2003. The reason why I know that date is because I started working here September of 2003. So we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary at Pacific as well as our Fall Festival. Summer concerts, we have our department has two separate series, one being at Verdugo Park and one being at City Hall, Perkins Plaza. And I also want to highlight the Brand series up at Brand Park, hosted by the Library Arts and Culture Commission. So every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we will have some sort of concert in the city. And then the Glendale Youth Alliance will be having their 30th anniversary wine tasting event at Brand Park. If anyone is welcome, that will be held July 20th at 6 p.m. We also work with a number of community agencies and partners for special events. Our next event that we're working with Senator Portantino's office is a Pike Safety Day event, which will be held here at Pacific Community Center. This is this coming weekend. We're also a sponsor for the Crescenta Valley Fireworks, which will be held July 4th. The Hike for Heroes, they'll be using Verdugo Park to have their Vartivar annual festival, water festival. Street Food Cinema will be back, and they will be having 3 different movies, two at Verdugo Park and one at Brand Park. The Alex Film Society and the Historical Society also will be having 3 films. The 100 Years of Cinema Under the Stars at Brand Park. All this information is in our leisure guide. And then National Night Out will be held the first Tuesday in August, and that would be held at multiple parks, one being Pacific, Adams, Nibley, and Glen Oaks Park. If anyone has any questions or they want to visit and get more information on our programs, they can visit the leisure guide, www.glendaleca.gov/leisure guide.
Okay, Councilmember Kasakian.
Thanks. So these are all great events. The concert series in particular, I know my family is a big fan of them. I'm glad to see some of the new programs are coming back, like the Street Food Cinema one. By the way, I think June 24th, this Saturday, is the Goonies at Verdugo Park. So my son is excited about it. I just heard Mr. Galanian say he loves it. Probably the most controversial thing I'll ever say is I'm not a fan of the Goonies. But it's going to be a good time. At these events, can we collaborate with the consultant for the districts to have a booth, have tables, walk around, let residents know who live in Glendale who are coming out to these events, which are very well attended, that this process is happening and they get to have a say in it?
Absolutely. We can reach out to Street Food Cinema tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Comments, questions? Councilmember Devine?
Just want to say thank you to you and your staff for providing all of these programs for our residents, kids, and elderly, all of us. Thank you very much. It's a lot of work, but a lot of fun is had by all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Ditto, thank you for all of this good information. And, okay, if there are no questions, no cards, no calls, all right, then we will move on to our next item.
Yes, Mr.
Sorry,
Mayor.
was there
members-
something?
I'm sorry, I forgot the most important thing. GTV6 worked very hard on this. I would like to highlight a video.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
Glendale parks make our community special. They offer something for everyone. And that is why parks make life better. Glendale parks are for cooling off. Glendale parks are for celebrations. Glendale parks are for working up a sweat. Glendale parks are for enrichment. Glendale parks are for community traditions. Glendale parks are for all. So join us this month to celebrate our parks. And remember,
Very nice, very nice. Yes,
Yes.
we'll allow clapping now. Okay.
That begs a question, watching that video. Are we bringing back the Verdugo Run, our Parks and Open Space? Is that
Yes.
coming back?
It will come back 2024. Thank you for our friends over at Public Works and City Council's direction to fix the trails over at Brand. Council allocated, I believe, 1.2, 1.4 million to renovate and fix the trails up there that were damaged by the storms this past winter. So we're hoping to have 2024. It'll be the 10th year. So we're very excited to have that event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And our next item?
Can we put it to the top of the slideshow? Thank you.
Yes, our next item is public arts.
Mr. Mayor, member City Council, changing gears. Dr. Gary Schaefer is already at the podium to provide an update on our public art program to you and the audience, and open it up to questions.
Apologies. Mr. Mayor, members of council, excited to be here with you this evening to present a public art update. I have no clever, fun video, so I feel I should apologize for that right now. But what we do have is a very extensive art plan for you, and I think it takes the urban art plan and begins to realize it. So first up, just mostly for the audience, you're all aware of this, that the Arts and Culture Commission is funded by developer impact fees. And the Arts and Culture Commission has been charged with funding arts and culture exhibitions, performances and events, works to place major works of public art around the city, and runs the city's mural art program and commissions murals. So I'd like to cover first some of the items that are happening in South Glendale. Some have been approved by council, some are new ideas that we are working on and wanted to share them with you this evening. So we have a major mural that we are working towards by a world-renowned artist. We have planned pieces in the Artsok Avenue Arts and Entertainment District, a potential sculpture at Central Park's Louise entrance. That will be a new entrance when the park is redesigned. A mural installation at Palmer Park, an exhibit at Central Library in conjunction with the LA Art Show, and an art bus service to the show, and art pianos and some creative crosswalks in North Glendale. So first up, this artist that we are talking to, thank you, Councilmember Kasakian, for introducing us to him, is Shepard Fairey. You may be familiar with his works. He's been active for over 30 years in the art space. He's probably one of his works that is most well known is the Obama Hope poster for Obama's first campaign. Just would like to share with you some of the murals from around the world that he has done. This one here is in Dallas, Texas. Another in Paris. This one in Lisbon. Here we have one in Charleston, South Carolina. This one is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Providence, Rhode Island. This one's in Austin, Texas. And this one here, don't know why that turned out that way on the slide, but it's a beautiful mural that's not well represented here on the slideshow, but you have it in your deck, is in West Hollywood, California. So the building that we are looking to put this mural on is located at 933 South Brand. It is the old Beacons building. It is currently the home of the Wine Vault, as well as the Greyhound Bar and Grill. And the owner is here with us this evening. So Nancy, thank you for coming. And we have presented this to the Arts and Culture Commission. We have brought it to the Historic Preservation Commission. They're both on board with this idea. This would be the face we would look at. It is the north face of the building. And this is the space the mural would take up on the building. And so we have no design to present. This is something we would be working with the artist, and he would present some options for us, and we could bring those back to council for you to look at. So why we think a mural in this location is so important. One, it really places Glendale squarely on the arts map of Southern California to have a Shepherd Ferry mural in our city. It furthers our mission of transforming Glendale into an arts destination, and it puts major art investment in an area of the city that hasn't necessarily seen that before. So we think all around this is a very good idea, and we hope to have your support on this in the future. Next up is just art installations that you are aware of on Artsock Avenue, and then a couple of new ones for Central and Palmer Parks that we will be bringing to you in the future. So first is, you'll recall Bountiful by Matthew Mazzato Studios. This would be on the south block of Artsock. The second piece is titled Tamit Gohar. This was also approved by council. I believe we were placing it on the north block, but there's been just some discussion, and that's obviously up to the designers as to where that piece would go. And then we still do have on the docket this piece, Curtain, that was approved by council some months ago. So just want to remind council that that still is on the docket, and if you have any thoughts on that, we'd be happy to bring that item back to council. And next up, so this piece, we worked with the Armenian American Museum on suggestions of placement, work with others within the city, and this is a piece by an Armenian artist based in Seattle, Gagam Abramian, and this is a potential sculpture. Now this is a first kind of look design. Obviously it has to be sited and placed in the park. It could be smaller, it could be doubtful that it would be larger, but it is a beautiful piece, and we will be bringing that to council soon. But it has been approved by Arts and Culture Commission to come to council recently. Next up is a basketball court mural at Palmer Park. This has not been designed yet. It hasn't been put out for RFQ or RFP, but just wanted to let you know that it was something that the Arts and Culture Commission was looking at, and we have been working in conjunction with Community Services and Parks on this, and they chose the location, and we like that it is located in South Glendale. Next up is something that is in the works. It's not 100% definite, but we are in talks with the LA Art Show. We did exhibit there. Reflect Space did this last year, of having a art bus that goes between Glendale Central Library and the LA Art Show that takes place next year, February 15th to 18th. And then we wish to have a few exhibits at the Central Library, so we would work with local museums to bring exhibits to the library, and this could serve as both a satellite for people to come from the LA Art Show. They're there for 4 days, some folks visiting from all over the country, some around the world. They could come to Glendale on this bus, and then they could return to the LA Art Show. But it also allows for Glendale residents to take a bus and avoid the traffic to downtown LA, avoid the very expensive parking at the convention center. And so we're really excited about this, and we continue our talks with the LA Art Show, and we're hopeful to bring this to fruition. And we've talked to Public Works as far as if Beeline is available. They're looking into that for us. We also would look to possibly get some grant funding to fund the bus, because the bus would be expensive. And if anyone knows anyone associated with any, ride company or transit company, please, that could help us, please let us know. Next up, a smaller project. We have these 2 pianos that community development has provided to us. They were old and used, and we've given them new life. We've had artists paint them, and those are going to be placed on one near the, right now I think the plan is near the Neon Museum, and the other up on the Artsock Paseo. And these would just be out. They're not necessarily weatherproofed. They would be out there for people to play for as long as they last. And I've seen the one on the left has been painted already, and it looks great. So. Just didn't want to waste the opportunity to talk a little bit about North Glendale, some of the projects we're working on. This has been approved by council, Haha Manga sculpture. It's currently sited for Glen Oaks and Brand, but we are also talking with GWP about that location. So we'll see where that one is best to end up. We're also looking to put a splash pad to actually do the art that would go on the surface of the splash pad at a park that is, location is to be determined. And then something that I'm super excited about, I hope you will be too, is the potential for a light installation in the pedestrian tunnel that goes underneath the 134 at Patterson near Fremont Park. It's a heavily used pedestrian tunnel, but it is a little dark and it is a little shady. And we think bringing a light installation, the picture in the center is from Little Tokyo in downtown Los Angeles, and you see what they did with an underused dark tunnel. And the other one is from Birmingham, Alabama, where they have lit a tunnel for pedestrians there. And I think that turned out really nice and would be great potential for us to bring new life to this area and bring safety as well. Next up is, and there's a photo missing, apologies. There, we've worked with the Montrose Shopping District, and you'll see in your presentation that there are these circular benches, and that is something that they would be excited about. So we would be looking to an artist to actually do an applique on those benches to bring new life to them, and just gave some examples of other painted benches from another jurisdiction. And then we do have 2 creative crosswalks going in at North Glendale. The first is near La Crescenta Nursery. We thought this floral arrangement would go nicely with the nursery. And then the other one is at La Crescenta and Roselawn, and that's working in conjunction with Public Works to do those crosswalks. So we're excited about those. And then coming soon, we're still going to do another public outreach meeting to get more input from the public on our mural ordinance. We had done 1 meeting last year, and so then we will be coming to council with a new revised mural ordinance as Arts and Culture has now taken over murals. So that is in the works. And then would be remiss to not mention both Parks and Library summer concerts, as well as we have exhibitions coming up, some exciting ones at Reflect Space, and Brand 51, which kicks off July 8th. Brand Associates Works on Paper, 6 p.m. Saturday evening, July 8th, it opens, and you're all invited, and we hope you will join us there. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Councilmember Asatrian? I don't know, it's a little hard.
Yeah, now it's working. All right. Well, first and foremost, I'm very excited about all of these. They look awesome. I have my feelings about the curtain on Artsakh Street. The pianos, were they donated to us by a local?
I would have to ask community development, but I believe they were donated. Yes, I'm told they were donated.
Okay. I'm not sure what other cities do to upkeep the pianos, but I know that some of the cities like Denver that I've visited quite often over the years, the same pianos with the same art remain there for years to come. So I don't know how they're doing it, but if there is a way for us to preserve it and continue to add, I think it really adds value to the city. I know I see Mr. Dish in the audience, and so one of the items that he had raised was the library, that room that has the piano tends to be closed off, and one of the items that I had asked Mr. Galanian to look into and to speak to you about was giving people the opportunity to actually use their card to reserve time and use that piano and play the piano. And so I don't know if it's something you guys are still looking into and how we can make that possible. But I think access to instruments and musical instruments is really critical, and whatever we can do in that space is.
I think that's an excellent idea, and I have some ideas on how we could deploy that to make it accessible, so thank you.
Okay. I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you
That's
so much.
Thank you. I'll start with Councilmember Najarian.
Yeah, thank you. So about this guy, Shepard Ferry, is this a fair representation of his work?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so this is going to be our biggest mural, perhaps, our biggest message board in the city. I really don't want anything political. It looks like every single one of his works has a political overtone to it, which, as we know, there are sometimes more than two sides, more than one side, more than two sides. I don't want to be sitting up here debating with my colleagues, is this too political, is this not political enough? I don't know about my colleagues, but I don't want to get into, you know, there's the one with the revolutionary communist with the flower and the AK-47. I don't think that or any other sort of piece of work like that on our property, or although it's not our property, under our...
Within our city.
In our, well, I mean, private property is private property, but under our, let's say, supervision is appropriate. I would strongly encourage, as he's thinking of designs, to be non-political.
All right,
I don't know about my colleagues, but, you know, this is going to be our biggest piece of art. It's not something in the Adams Hill gas station. This is going to be out there for a long time. So I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Devine?
Thank you. My question's about the creative crosswalks, and you have two of them, and they seem to be at obscure locations. How are these selected?
So these, I believe, were streets that Public Works was already doing work on, so that's in part how they get introduced, because the street will be pre-prepared to apply them. I believe that's the case. Perhaps our city manager can.
That is accurate, Councilmember Devine. As projects that are in the planning stages at Public Works, they consult with our Library Arts and Culture for the potential of adding creative crosswalks to their capital improvement project.
I'd just like to see one down in the southern part of the city where we have a lot of traffic, a lot of people would see it, give us a lot of good, I think it would, they're terrific. I mean, if they end up looking like this, they're great.
So we will be working with Public Works on some in the southern part of the city, rest assured.
Okay. All right, I think that's it. I had another comment, I can't remember what it was. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I actually have just one more.
Can't hear you.
All right.
There we go.
I remember if my memory serves me right. There was supposed to be something on Brand Boulevard that the Neon Art Museum was supposed to put out. Mr. Najarian, I think you had mentioned something, but I didn't see anything in the plan. It was supposed to be part of their plan some years ago. Is there anything in the works for that with the Neon Museum?
Not aware of anything. I mean, we work with them constantly, and they did do something during the pandemic that we funded, but it was a drive-by art show that they were doing, but that's the only thing we...
Not in the island area of like Brand as you're driving up and down?
I'm not aware of anything, but I'll inquire of staff.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this is.
Yeah, I think the idea was that when we were discussing the lease with the very first Mona, that they would energize up and down Brand with some neon pieces, kind of like West Hollywood had. Is it West Hollywood or West LA? Along the median of Sunset, I think.
Yeah, it's West Hollywood.
I don't know if we ever got that far with them or they were able to do that.
Happy to explore it with them.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Councilmember Devine?
I ask, there's no mention here about Adams Square. What about the painted crosswalks there?
Yeah, that's one of the ones that we're working on. So it had come to council before, so I apologize that it
Oh,
was
okay,
not in.
that's why you didn't put it in. Okay, thank you. Just
Any other comments?
Yeah, first of all, I think that there's a lot going on here, and that's great. Anyone who says that, Glendale's lagging behind in the public art scene should take note. Just in the last 3 years alone, since we've eased up our restrictions on murals, I've seen a number of really incredible murals all over the city. There's one up in La Crescenta in the Montrose area that depicts the Armenian composer Komitas. That's breathtaking. There's another mural that came up on Glen Oaks that actually is somewhat political. It is political because it talks about the freedom movement in Iran and what's been going on. So I think it's been exactly what we would hope, that people are expressing themselves through their art. In terms of Shepherd Ferry's work, I want to thank the building owner for offering up their building as a canvas. It's a wonderful building. It's a great looking building. I remember going to it when it still had the Cinnabar, and now I think it's the Greyhound as a watering hole. But I think it would make a great canvas for a really marquee mural. And you're right, if we were to be able to bring this to Glendale, it'll be the envy of our neighboring cities that we have this here in the city and in a very prominent area too along Brand Boulevard. I do like the idea that there's some focus and love being shown towards Montrose with the benches and being creative. I know that when we were up there this last week, the mayor and Councilmember Devine and I all heard during the Merchants Thank You supper that they want to also have sculptures or they want more. So anything that we can do to help them out over there, maybe even a mural. There's some walls up there. That'd be great. So thank you for the presentation. I'm looking forward to it. The crosswalks are far better than some of the designs we have now. I'm glad that staff has taken our recommendations and our comments to heart. So I appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, and a couple thoughts from me. One, I am excited about the building canvas there that we have for Shepherd Ferry. So thank you to the building owner who's here. Who's the building owner?
Nancy.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, I think that's really amazing. And if we could get Shepherd Ferry to do something, let's look at some options. I'm certainly not as concerned about it having some political content, but whatever. We'll deal with it when it comes. But I'm excited to see that we could potentially be getting somebody that is that well-known, and it would be, yes, it would be the envy of our neighbors to have that. I agree. So I'm excited about that. The curtain on Artsakh. I know this came to us, and I think there continues to be some angst about whether this is really right for that space. And Can we, what's the process? Are we going to bring that back? Because I understand the contract has not been finalized. We still have an opportunity to revisit this. Can we, how do we formally make that happen?
Good question, Mayor Brotman. As this was approved by City Council, at least the majority of City Council, I would ask that one council member request for it to be reconsidered. And you are correct that the contract hasn't been finalized or executed, so it's ready to be reconsidered at your request.
Can somebody ask for that today?
Today, we cannot take direction.
Yeah, it would have to be requested at a
Regular
regular
council
meeting.
Okay.
And it would have to be requested by a council member who either voted for it or a council member that was not on the council at the time it was approved.
Okay, so if somebody would care to do that at our next meeting, I think there's a general consensus that we should relook at that.
I will look to hear that from you.
Yeah. The creative crosswalks, I had the same feeling as Councilmember Devine. I mean, having them up in La Crescenta, there's not much foot traffic there. There's some, but not much. Mostly it's just fast-moving traffic. So I do question the value of those locations. And I thought originally the ones that we saw were going to be, they were not those locations, right? It was Adams Square, and there were a few other locations.
Right, one near the Galleria, so those are forthcoming.
Yeah, I mean, is it worth spending the money to do this in La Crescenta? We could do just a regular continental crosswalk, you know, the ladder zebra crosswalk or whatever it's called. That gives us the safety and the visibility, and then save our dollars to do something where there's foot traffic?
Yeah, I don't think it's whatever council wishes, of course. I don't think they're that expensive, and I think if we have Public Works on board, let's go with it, but it's up to council.
Well, I'd like maybe...
Mayor Brotman, let me have a conversation with Public Works and revisit it. If the intention is to install these at locations where it only makes sense, where there is higher foot traffic, then we can just replace them with upcoming projects.
Yeah, and on that, I know in Montrose, we have had a request to look at a creative crosswalk there. So if we could get that, I know I brought that up with the city manager. That was a request from the Montrose Shopping Park Association. I know we're doing the benches, but if we can do the crosswalk there, now that is going to get a lot of attention, right? People will see that all the time, and that would be a real hit. So
Yeah, those locations are on the list, Mayor Brotman.
okay. And then I think the last thing, well, I have two other things. One is I really love that light installation under the that tunnel. And with, we know that the Pioneer, that's right where the Pioneer affordable housing development is going to be, right? So we're going to have, right? Isn't that's what we're talking about? Yeah.
I'm hearing yes.
Yeah, that's the big project. Our largest affordable housing development is going to be right there.
Near the tunnel, yes.
Right there, and then you're going to have all these people, and you're going to have Fremont Park, and it is kind of dark and dingy, so that would be such a great amenity to have that. I love that idea. And then on the pianos, what do we do to make sure that they're like in tune? I mean, or that the keys are like not broken? Because I know at Glendale College, there's this piano there and people go and play it and it sounds pretty bad because it's like kind of, and I think some of the keys are broken.
We have a contract with the piano tuner. We'll make sure they're tuned when they're placed, and we will.
Okay, so we'll keep them in
as
some.
best we can, and the artists are they know they're going to be outside, so they're putting a heavy varnish on them.
Excellent, okay. All right, thank you. Councilmember Devine?
Sorry, I just had, my thought came back to me. I just noticed the other day driving down Glendale Avenue, the Bank of America has been painted bright white. Wouldn't that be a great place for a mural? Maybe consider that, working with the Bank of America. But on the whole, this presentation was so exciting. I mean, some of the pieces and the works are just wonderful, and kudos to Arts and Culture. I know Jane Byers here and your staff for putting all of these together. Amazing.
Well, and thank you so much, Council Member. And I would be remiss to not thank the Arts and Culture Commission for their service, and also Jennifer Fukitomo Jones, who is just, we are doing what cities, that have staff for art 3 times our size aren't doing. So we're very excited about it, and she's been doing what I like to say a yo woman's job on this work. So thank you.
But let's not overstress her and lose her. We don't want her to get burned out.
Agreed.
Okay. Do we have any other comments and any public comment?
No public comments.
No public comment. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And what's our next item and our last item, I guess?
Our final item, well, no, not the final. Our next item is Glendale Water and Power incentive programs.
Mayor Brotman, members of City Council, changing gears completely, moving from fun stuff like public art and recreational programs. Mr. Herbert Garcia, our Public Benefits Charge Marketing Manager, is going to present to you what this council has approved as part of the 23-24 budget, essentially the energy efficiency program and for low-income residents. Mr. Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor Brotman and City Council members. Thank you for the invitation to share some of our programs with the community. I'll go ahead and get started with our first program here. I want to talk about the Smart Home Upgrade Program. And this is a great program that goes to people's homes and evaluates their home to see how energy efficiency the home is, and it does an audit. So it does an energy audit at people's homes and installs energy efficiency devices and also some water devices as well for free for our residential customers. There's a number there that it's 1-800-263-9313 is the phone number that our residents can call to schedule an appointment. Again, it's a really great program that installs free items for our residential customers. The next program is the Smart Home Rebate Program. It's an incentive program, rebates for different types of energy efficiency devices and also water devices that people can purchase, and we would honor them and give them a rebate for the purchase towards something that's energy efficient. The next program that I would like to talk about is actually a new program, and it's the Early Replacement Electrification HVAC Pilot Program. Basically, what we're doing with this program is that we're trying to identify old, inefficient HVAC units and giving residents an incentive to upgrade them and change them out before they break. If they are looking at this program and they want to, for example, replace it, but perhaps downsize their unit, they get an additional $300. If they do decide to install a heat pump and convert to a heat pump, then they get additional funding as well for that. The next program is the online store program. Basically, this is an online marketplace, so customers can go online and purchase, again, energy efficiency or water conservation devices at a discount rate. The next program is our Home Energy Report program. Basically, this program sends customers on a monthly basis either an email or a print report that tells them how energy efficient they are and how they're doing with their usage. It also enables the customer, it gives them an access to a portal. So they can go to a portal to look at their usage on a daily basis, look at their energy usage, or even an hourly. So they can really look and see their consumption and see where they can perhaps conserve and be more efficient at home. The next program is our Peak Time of Use Energy Monitor program. It's a new program that we're hoping to launch in the next few weeks. This is basically just geared towards customers that are currently on a time of use rate and giving them a device that would assist them to know when is the best time to use electricity at home. The next program that we have is our Tree Power program. We've had this program for many years, very successful program. We basically give customers 3 shade trees for free. And the premise here is that we want them to shade their home, and if they shade their home, they're going to more likely use less electricity to cool it. And then so we have an arborist that we contract that would go to their home and help them site and figure out where the best location to plant this tree. He'll also provide a list of approximately over 30 different types of trees that they can select from. Once, they'll help them, the arborists will help them select the tree. And again, there is a phone number that our customers can call. It's 1-800-957-4425. They can call that number to schedule an appointment. And also they can go on our website as well. Our next programs, I'll be talking about our low-income programs. We have a bill discount program where we offer $17.50 for low-income customers. And this basically helps them, there's a low-income guideline, and so if they meet the guideline, then we'll be able to give them $17.50 per month, and so it'll be a $35 discount on their bill. The next low-income program is a new program that Council approved. It's a Glendale Reduced Energy at Home program. So basically, this program is similar like the program that I talked about earlier for our residential customers. It's the same program. The only difference is that we're going to be providing more devices, more services for the low income. So if we identify them being a low income, they'll be able to receive additional installations at their home. The next program we have under our low income is our Helping Hand program. This program basically is just a temporary assistance. So if anyone has an emergency, a temporary emergency, they'll fill out our application and we'll be able to assist them with up to $150 towards their electric bill. The next low-income program is the Guardian program, and that's basically just a medical discount program. And so there are customers out there that may have medical devices that use a lot of electricity, so we're able to assist them with some dollars towards their electric bill to help them with that extra burden on their electric bill. In regards to transportation, EVs, we have our residential EV charger rebate program. And basically, we give $200 towards the purchase of a non-network charger, or $599 towards a EV charger that is networked. One of the components that we added this year, coming up, this fiscal year coming up, is that we're going to be adding an additional $800 towards those customers that are having to do a panel upgrade on their home due to the installation of an EV charger. And there is also a breakdown if we identify the customers being low income, there's also additional funding towards those customers as well. The next program will be the commercial and multifamily EV charger rebate program. This is for multifamily or for our commercial customers. If they are to install EV chargers, we would assist them with $50,000 or 50% of the project cost. The next program, we have the web-based EV customer awareness platform. It's basically a website where customers can go to this portal, this website, and find out anything about EVs, how to, where to buy it, what kind of charger to buy, where there are public chargers in Glendale. So it's an educational website for customers to learn about EVs. The next program is our off-peak EV charging rebate program. Basically, this program, we're currently offering $8 per month, but we increased it coming up this fiscal year to $12. And this basically is just for those that have an EV at home and are charging at home, and try to incentivize them to charge off-peak. Our next program is a new one. It's an e-bike rebate. It's a $300 rebate for residential customers to purchase towards the purchase of an electric bicycle. Again, if they are identified as low income, they will receive an additional $100. And lastly, we have the electric car and bike guest drive event. This is a great event that we hold a couple of times a year. Basically, it's it's an event where you can come and test drive electric cars, and we're adding e-bikes to this events this fiscal year coming up. That concludes the presentation. Again, just to let our residents know that if they're interested in any of the programs that I talked about, to please visit GlendaleWaterandPower.com. All the programs are listed there. There's different ways that you can sign up for the different programs. I share with you some phone numbers for some of the ones that I do have. Others, you can go online, submit a form online, and gather some more information. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Before we go to questions, we have a speaker, Karen Kwok, who would like to comment on this item.
Hi, I'm Karen Kwok, and I think you know exactly what I'm going to say because I've said this many times before. Okay, most of your energy incentive programs are aimed at homeowners. They're aimed at people who can make their own decisions regarding their appliances. But that simply doesn't apply to renters, and I'm going to remind you that this zip code, 91204, is 80% renters, because things usually work out this way. The biggest energy drain in many homes is actually the refrigerator. Now, as a homeowner, you can decide, I'm going to pay a little bit more for this model up front because it's more energy efficient and the maintenance cost would be lower, so that over the life of the appliance, I actually save money. Okay, that simply doesn't apply to renter situations. The landlord usually wants to pay the lowest cost up front, the cheapest model, and he's not concerned with the maintenance costs because he's not going to be paying those costs. We're the ones who are going to pay it, the ones who live in the unit year after year after year. We're the ones who pay the electric bill. So I would love to see incentive programs designed around these criteria. Because as I've said many times, we will not solve the energy problems in Glendale without addressing renters, because we are in fact the majority of the population. The same applies to solar panels. I would love to see solar panels on my rental. But again, I don't control the property, I don't control the upfront costs. You would need to negotiate a solution with landlords and tenants. And this is one of the things that I hoped that the Tenant-Landlord Committee would be able to discuss, as a policy suggestion. Okay, and finally, the stove. I was just reading an article this afternoon about the amount of benzene emitted by gas stoves. Apparently, it can be higher than indoor secondhand smoke, or even living next door to a polluter. And again, my landlord was actually fantastic about installing a brand new stove in my apartment, and I appreciated that. Oh, by the way, my landlord is actually Rick Barnes. The reason I've never complained about my personal landlord is because they're fantastic landlords. And I actually didn't know this until earlier this year, because I deal mainly with his wife, Margie, and they're very responsive about repairs. And so, there are landlords and there are tenants who'd be very happy to negotiate exactly what incentives do we need to see in order to solve this problem for the entire city. Okay, and something like a stove is not going to be a deal breaker, when looking for an apartment. We look for the location, price, size, spacing, number of bedrooms. Even if we sort of don't like the stove, we're not going to say, I'm not going to rent it because of that. That's a negotiable. And so there are people, probably not everybody, willing to negotiate this. I would love to help work with you on programs to help solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would welcome sitting down with you and maybe GWP and whatever, and trying to think about some ways that we can directly address that issue, because it is a serious impediment to what we want to accomplish. So thank you. Comments? Councilmember Asatrian.
I know that as we were going through the budget session, the council had made several comments about the incentive programs, including looking at maybe reducing the number of programs and making programs a little more palatable and people wanting to participate. Are you still going to be going through that process, or is this the list of more consolidated programs that you?
This is not a list of all the programs. This is just some of the ones that I've highlighted right now. The ones that were adopted last week through the budget, it has that exhibit that has the list, the comprehensive final list of all our programs.
Okay. Councilmember Satrian, council's comments were taken into account and incorporated in the final list. that was adopted by
But is that still going, I mean, I recognize that there wasn't much time also between our initial comments and the budget adoption. Are you still going to be going through a process of looking at the ones that we've adopted, how we can potentially even like downsize those or make other programs that are worthy? Like, I think one of the examples I had given was the rebate program of getting somebody to give their old refrigerator. That was a nominal amount, right? And my question at the time was, well, why would someone give it to us when they could put it on Craigslist and sell it for much more, right? And so are we really creating incentive programs, or are we, you know, I think some of these things are great. I'm just looking that we continue to look at how we're making them more effective versus having so many programs. And I know this isn't the complete list, but.
Councilmember Satrian, the program that was adopted as part of the budget adoption on the 13th included those comments, and it's adopted for a 2-year period. But in the process, Mr. Garcia and his staff will be looking into other incentives and making it more effective for our residents.
I think Ms. Quack had some important comments to make about renters as well.
Yes.
And I think one of those was about solar. And I know I've raised this in the past, but looking at how we're helping bring solar to apartment units versus just single-family homes.
Yeah, GWP is actually looking into the potential of bringing those programs for our renters in the city.
I see Mark in the back. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Councilmember Kasakian.
I think that these are great. I hope people will take advantage of them. I do agree that Ms. Kwok made some very valid points and observations about trying to have programs that also include and incorporate our renter population, individuals who are renters versus homeowners or property owners. I want to, though, on a positive note, congratulate city staff on just pulling into the parking lot here. You see a whole bunch of EV chargers that were installed just in the last year. We had a ribbon cutting not too long ago at the parking lot. Sorry, there's a fly buzzing around here. That we did one at the, I believe it's the Artsakh Avenue garage. So I think things are moving in the right direction. It took us a while, but I'm glad to see things are going there. I would like us to also, and I know this was a very energy-heavy list of programs. I guess we talked a little bit about trees, but I would like us to also consider talking about what we can do for water conservation incentives for individuals to use less water. As we saw in anyone who's been following the articles and news, even though we've had a very wet winter, there's still a lot of snowpack. The Colorado River Basin, which is the primary source of our water, is not in good shape, and that means we are still going to have to continue to conserve water. And what the governor and our leaders in Sacramento had required us to conserve, which was, I think, 15% across the state to cut back our water usage. Many jurisdictions, including those of us here in the LA area, fell far short of that goal. Overall, a lot of that was offset by the fact that we had a wet winter, but we should educate the public about to not get too excited. I've already received a couple of emails saying, well, we had all this rain, when are we going to cut back, or when are we going to resume the more frequent watering days? And I think we need to do some education and outreach in that regard, letting folks know that we need to still be very careful with our water usage. And that includes also incentivizing programs, tools for landlords. I know I've had conversations with Mr. Milano, Herbert Milano, that folks are very familiar with, he's been a frequent speaker, and he's shown me some things that he's done within his units that have helped reduce the water usage overall for the tenants living in his apartments. He's a landlord here in Glendale, so I'd like to see that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Just one question from me. The e-bike rebate program, is that live?
No, everything goes live July 1st, but it's going to take us a couple of days to put applications together and get everything in order, but it'll start this fiscal year, coming up.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's interesting because I got an email just a few days ago from somebody saying, hey, Pasadena announced an e-bike rebate program. Why isn't Glendale doing anything? So I guess maybe they just launched something. I'm not quite sure. But so when are we going to go out and market this?
So right now, starting July 1st, we'll be able to start marketing the program. We just need to make an application, put it, on the website for people to be able to download and apply. So it'll be a quick turnaround for us to get this program available right away. I would say in the next week or two.
Okay, sounds good. Good. Thank you.
Great.
No other questions, comments, cards, calls? Okay, let's. I guess that wraps up our reports. What's next on the agenda?
Next is oral communications. We have 3 speaker cards.
Okay. Okay. And we will start with, I hope I have this right. Oh, sorry, that's Jenny. I couldn't, Jenny Skinner, or Jenny Quinones Skinner as I know her.
Sorry, it is Quinones Skinner. I just was a little, it's a long last name. Sometimes you want shorthand. So happy Pride Month, everyone. Good evening, City Council. I'm very happy to have this pop-up council meeting here in my community in 91204. I live here. I often don't come to council to talk about things that are going on in my neighborhood, but this was a good opportunity to do it. And there also hasn't been a great opportunity too. So I just would like to bring your attention to a dangerous blind spot, which you probably already know about, but it doesn't hurt to remind you, on Broadway and Pacific. I walk a lot in this particular neighborhood, and turning left is quite dangerous and stressful on evening walks, just in general. And multiple times I've almost been hit due to drivers not being able to see pedestrians while turning left with approaching traffic. So it's imperative that the council takes action, I think, on some of these safety measures, especially in this community. Pacific is so much not a boulevard, but a freeway. If you walk in this area, you know that north of Broadway, the streets are very small. It's difficult for ADA reasons. South of Broadway, between Broadway and Colorado, we don't have a crosswalk. There's a crosswalk on connecting Columbus. In between, lots of children, lots of seniors are crossing Pacific. It's very dangerous. I've lived here for 2 years. I've lived in Glendale for over 20 years, and this is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods I've ever walked in before. And I've been out a lot. And I know there's a lot of pockets to my community, and I'm kind of coming from a place of my own neighborhood, talking about myself tonight, but it's an issue that I think has been concerning me for a really long time. I brought it up to several of you guys, and I know you have a lot, and ladies, and I know you have a lot going on in the city, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to just say how important and crucial it is to commerce to connect this part of our community. It often feels like we're in an island, and so just living on west of Pacific can feel like you're on an island. You're not connected to commerce in other parts of the city. Redeveloping San Fernando is not a good potential project because it's so far out in the future, the end. So I think that's really what I just wanted to come here and stress tonight. And yay for boring comments.
Thank you. And you're talking about, I'm just looking at a picture here, so.
2 things, Broadway going west, where the intersection is Broadway and Pacific, so it's that left-hand turn as you're going west on Broadway and turning on Pacific. There's that shopping center. As your car approaches and you are going towards the intersection, you're really focused on the incoming traffic, approaching traffic. So I know I've drove before, and the only reason I pay extra attention is because I walk and I've almost been hit a bunch of times. But if you're crossing on that crosswalk, you're already like out in the intersection and you don't see the person behind you. It's just the way that that particular intersection is laid out. I personally, as a person with 0 expertise in civil engineering, think that should be a left-hand only signals turn, but that's up to you guys to figure out. But it doesn't feel safe as I've walked it, and even as a driver, I'm always worried that I'm going to accidentally hit somebody because people also don't cross necessarily, following lights and stuff. And the other concern is just that stretch of Pacific between Broadway and Colorado. There's not a crosswalk. So that's actually a pretty long, and I welcome anyone to come walk it on your own or walk it with me, but it's a pretty large stretch. The mall is so close. There's a park there. Like, so many of us would like to be able to not have to wind in a giant U to safely use a crosswalk. And I just think that because there is also a lighted kind of crosswalk on Columbus that connects, on Columbus, the housing on Columbus. I'm not doing a great job with my hands right now. I don't know why I'm doing that. But anyway, I think that would be something to look into to please. I've heard a lot of public transportation projects. I don't hear a lot of stuff dealing with the speed on that street, the safety, and also just the accessibility to commerce in our city and being able to use the things that are existing and that are there that we want to do and spend our money and enjoy ourselves. So.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll talk to Mr. Imrani later on and find out more about that intersection.
Yeah, I think like Hawthorne, which is a midway point, it would be interesting to see
I think that's
if that's
the one that
a
connects
feasible place to put one. But I agree that, I have walked that stretch and I have seen that segment between Broadway and Colorado is a very dangerous one, given especially the density of the units and how many families we have in that area.
And the location of the freeway. People are racing to get out and get on the freeway, and I think that's definitely an issue. But thank you for doing this pop-up council. I've enjoyed having you down the street. Got to come over right after I made dinner, so thank you, and
thanks for coming. Okay, thank you. And next, Ramela Iragi.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember audience. As a matter of fact,
Could you come closer to the mic? It's hard to hear you.
Oh, really? It's sort of awkward. I mean, the sound. Being a mayor in the city of Glendale, it's not a really big deal since the mayor is just have a facilitator role here, and just the difference is, I'm sorry, just the difference is just sitting in the middle and just facilitating the meetings. So basically, actually I'm here I'm opposing your decision to move the section of public speech and moving from the 3 minutes of oral communication to the end of, from the top of the hour to the end of the meeting. And this is, I believe that, so you're just, as a mayor, you think that it's a big deal to make those kind of decisions, whereas as a matter of fact, this move devaluate public opinions and devaluate the 4 years of tradition of public speaking. This move makes public opinion that makes it you're not valuing the public opinion, and as a matter of fact, you don't want to listen to that. As a matter of fact, this is a very retrograded move on your behalf, on your side, and yes, oh my God, I'm so nervous. It's not a regular.
Take your time. Take your time.
And Yeah, as a matter of as I said, you're devaluating the public opinion, so you don't want to listen to public opinion. And as a matter of fact, I believe that maybe next time we bring a mattress to this public meeting, so I can stay late, maybe, and then express our concern and opinions. Thank you.
Well, I have a better idea. You can use the mattress at home, and you can call in at the end of the meeting.
No, it's not as effective as being a
Well, you have
attendee,
options.
being an
You have
attendee at these meetings.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And finally, Karen Kwok.
Hi, I sent 2 photos to the city clerk earlier today that I would like to display. Are they going to go up on the screen? Because one of them is really funny and the crowd needs to see it. Yeah. Okay, this is La Sombrita. And this was released by the City of LA last month. And I would like to thank Mr. Arun Najarian in his capacity as chair of LA Metro for commenting on it last month and graciously acknowledging that this was announced to pretty much instant mockery. As you can see, this is one of the many ways it was mocked. So for people who don't know, a quick summary, this was released as a way to provide shade for bus riders in spaces where there's a great lack of bus shelters. And in this part of town, if you walk around, you see that there are a lot of bus stops that are lacking bus shelters, and they are sorely needed here. Okay, so the one thought that kept going through my head as this went round, this eventually became a national joke. It's a national embarrassment. There were articles written in the national press, about how ridiculous this was. And they cited a number of reasons, but this is actually what bothered me the most. Okay, you got pretty much instant reaction from the public that this is a really dumb idea. My question is, why couldn't you figure this out at an earlier stage of the process? Because I actually represent the target end user of this product, and so do a lot of people in this neighborhood. All you had to do was ask, what do we think of this idea? And we would have been happy to tell you completely for free, this is really dumb, you need to kill it. Go ahead with other ideas. And I read an article just recently that pointed out, in this process, they actually had 2 panels. One panel of government officials, another panel of resident stakeholders. And so there's actually no reason why, if you had extensive outreach with the public, why you couldn't have gotten this feedback earlier. But the way I often see these panels run is that the people who are appointed to these panels and commissions are carefully selected to be yes men, who will tell you only exactly what you want to hear and not air the opinions that you desperately need to hear. Okay, the most offensive thing about this is that it was sold as a gender equity measure. And as a woman of color, I'm going to point out exactly how does this, act toward gender equity. So the light at the top of this at night is meant to provide a safety feature, but as you can see, it provides barely any light at all. And in fact, I would point out that it actually does the opposite, and it actually makes me feel less safe. Because what it does is it acts like a beacon to show passersby that there is a single woman waiting at a bus station alone, and you actually make her a target. A safety feature would be if you allowed the person standing under it to see better. That actually would increase my safety. Not to shine a beacon on me to tell people there's a woman standing here alone at night. Okay, unfortunately, this is again what I see again and again and again in government programs. And by the way, this is actually not something I'm saying as an activist. About 10 years ago, when I worked as senior manager at Kaplan Test Prep, my employer actually paid to send me to a weekend-long workshop in the lean startup. It's actually a sound business practice, even if your only goal is to make money from producing an end product that users actually want to use. You need to provide a space for them to give you continuous feedback and listen to it respectfully and incorporate their feedback into your product. It's very much a team-based approach, not a top-down approach. And that would be a way to actually prevent these very bad ideas from being released before they become a national embarrassment. And frankly, my favorite question, who benefits, is actually you benefit. Because you get to kill bad ideas early on, and then you proceed with good ideas from early on. Because frankly, from my perspective, I actually spent a lot of time mocking this online. I have absolutely no problem seeing you people learn this lesson the hard way while I sit here and laugh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ximena. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, there's a couple things I have in mind. I wrote on the card rent control, but there's other things too. So I live on Chevy Chase Drive, and there have been other comments during this meeting about making Glendale a more walkable city, and I think part of that is making sure it's walkable for everyone, including those who are disabled, people who use wheelchairs. If you take a walk on Chevy Chase Drive, and I imagine, and other sidewalks all around Glendale, the sidewalks are super skinny, and then sometimes there aren't even sidewalks on some streets. So I feel like, there's public transport for a reason. It's because people use it. So we know that people walk to get around Glendale. So it'd be really cool to have sidewalks that we can walk on. Literally, there's this much space to walk on, a big telephone pole, and then this much space for my friends who use canes to walk around, or old people, or whoever it may be. We want to make sure that Glendale is walkable for everyone, including those who are disabled. So yeah, that's my first thing. My second thing is I live by Palmer Park, and from the person who is presenting on that mural for the basketball court, I think that's really cool. Too, another thing that would be really cool for Palmer Park is if there wasn't a fence in the front of it, because I feel like having a fence in front of a park sends a very clear message about who the park is for. And, elephant in the room, usually the reason there's fences on parks is to ward off people who are houseless. So what does that really do for houseless people? If anything, it kind of just hides the problem rather than addressing it, which I guess leads to my last thing is, there will be less homelessness if there is more rent control. Glendale has the rent ordinance, but that's definitely not enough. I know there's an ad hoc committee, but since y'all are here, I wanted to say it. But yeah, there should definitely be better rent control here. There's not one, so I think that's it. Let me think if there's anything else. Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming and speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have one more card, Alan Durham.
Thank you for letting me speak again. And I hadn't planned to speak on this item, but because we had another speaker, and because I saw in Mike Mohill's last email that he's intimating that Mayor Brotman is a dictatorial, authoritative mayor who is trying to squelch public comment, and I don't agree with that at all. I agree with the mayor's decision to move the public comment or eliminate public comments from the community events announcements at the beginning of the meetings. I always thought, I understand the reason that former Mayor Devine had initiated that process, but it's really no longer needed for that reason. And it did seem to disrupt the topics, of the meeting, because people were getting up during community events, and most of the time was being taken up by people speaking on all sorts of items rather than waiting until later in the meeting. And so I just wanted to say that Mayor Brotman, to me, has always welcomed public comment. That was not a move on his part to try to limit the public's input. There are other ways to reach the council by email, phone, otherwise. And I know that Mayor Brotman has always been the most responsive council member. I don't email a lot, but he's always been the most responsive. He always acknowledges my email and follows up on it. So I wanted to put it on record that, there's been criticism of his move last week, or 2 weeks ago, but I don't think it's justified. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what's in that newsletter because I unsubscribed a long time ago. So, but I don't think there's any, perfect way to do public comment. I know in Burbank, they've up until now allowed only public comment on all items on the agenda at one period of time at the beginning of the meeting, whereas